Hey, it's been a long time, but welcome to the five-star zone as we get ready to kick off the Big Ten year. Harold Sheldon from the Big Ten Network, senior research analyst, kind enough to join me. He is actually out in Las Vegas. He was there for Media Day. Harold, I guess the biggest question is, what did we learn, or did we learn anything with Media Day?
I feel like you don't really learn a ton. I mean, you can kind of get a vibe from some coaches and some players if they, feel like they're under the radar a little bit, or if they feel like they've got a surprise for some people that people might not know about. I feel like you can get kind of a vibe there. But for the most part, it's, hey, our program has been so great at this for the last few years. These are all of the accomplishments that we've got. And you know how it is for July and August. Such and such is in the best shape of their life. This is the best camp we've had. Is the most connected team we've had, and none of that really plays out until the season starts. So everybody's 0-0 right now and feeling good about themselves.
Because the funny thing is, other than the people who work for your network, I swear, when I see the people asking questions, I'm like, I have no idea who that person is. And I remember from back in the day when I covered it, it was like a who's who of media showed up. And now, like you said, it's more of a, hey, you know what? We're going to be great. Spirit is high. We're ready to hit the ground running. And according to them, we got 18 champions of the Big Ten because everybody thinks they have a chance. So we still got one more day to go. So by the time people watch this, it'll be or what's today the last day?
Yeah, today was the last day.
Okay, so
Today
all
was the
right, well,
last day.
scratch
So
that.
we're all
Okay, so
done.
we're done. All right, so we're
We're done.
done. And not a ton happened. Let's just start off. Ryan Day, Ohio State, Big Ten champions. What was the vibe with them?
So I will say it was interesting kind of seeing it one being in Vegas, which was very weird. Just seeing the Big Ten signage in the hotel, walking through the casino, trying to find a convention center. It,
I
it
mean, is this
definitely felt
something
weird.
is something you think they're gonna do again, or is this a one-off? Because I still don't know why it's in Las Vegas.
I think it was a one-off. I know the commissioner said on Tuesday that logistics played a big part in it. I know that's normally in Indianapolis, but I think there was something where Lucas Oil was booked the week they wanted to do it, and so I think they just wound up doing a pivot and doing the West Coast schools of salad. We'll see if that continues, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was back in Indy next year.
Okay. So, all right, back to Ohio State. What do we get?
Yeah, so I will say it's been very interesting in this new NIL landscape where not only are the coaches there, not only are the ADs there, but there are donors who are coming to these things now. And you see they're all out at dinner together. Some of them, I know Brett Bielema had a lot of his Illinois donors at the press conference. They had their own separate like VIP row where they were able to like listen to him speak and kind of be part of the whole experience. So this is definitely 2025 college football in a nutshell. But Ryan Day seemed like he was obviously in good spirits. I think you could argue they have the best two players in college football, the best offensive player in Jeremiah Smith, the best defensive player in Caleb Downs, and Sonny Styles is back again. It does seem interesting that there's more questions with them, but obviously they get the benefit of the doubt because they always are loaded. They always recruit well. They get just enough out of the portal. But most of the buzz around Media Day was about Penn State.
I'm gonna get to Penn State in a minute. I am curious for Ohio State. So did they have to answer a lot of questions about, yeah, you won the national title, but you lost to Michigan?
It definitely came up. It definitely came up. But I think it was more of a, oh, by the way, there's still this Michigan, issue that you've had. But for the most part, I think it was, hey, you're the national champs. This is back-to-back national championships for the Big Ten. That was kind of the big vibe around Ohio State and kind of how do you get back there. Michigan obviously was brought up, and they haven't lost five straight to them in 100 years. So they're trying to avoid that this time
Wow.
around. Yeah, 1922 to 27 was the last time they lost five in a row. So they're trying to not have that piece of history this year. But yeah, it was certainly brought up. Jeremiah Smith has some things to say before media day about how I didn't. He didn't come back to lose to them, and he's gonna make sure he he does his part so they don't lose to them. And
I mean, the funny thing is, and like I said, we're about to get to the other ones, but so your network played the Michigan Classic game, and I'm rewatching it again, and I'm looking at NFL player, NFL player, NFL player, NFL player, and I'm saying you can only score 10 points. Now, I know Michigan has some NFL players on defense, but they didn't have anybody in the secondary. You had NFL wide receivers. You had a true freshman who probably would have gone in the first round had he gone to the NFL this year. I swear to God, I'm like, I still don't understand how they lost that game. It's got to keep Ryan Day up at night. But I had a feeling that was going to get mentioned. If nobody else, at least the Michigan reporters are going to be like, oh, yeah, congratulations on your national title, but you still didn't beat Michigan.
Right. And I think, to your point, and I know we kind of talked about it leading up to the game, if they wanted to make that a phone booth fight, that wasn't a fight they were going to win. And they tried to prove like they were the tougher team. And when instead of relying on the NFL receivers that you have and the NFL running backs that you have, you try to get in the phone booth and play dirty with a Michigan team that had nothing to lose and preferred to play that way. And they wound up losing.
Congratulations to Michigan and Ryan Day. I remember saying, like, boy, you better win the national title or you're going to get fired. Got a feeling that if you lose that fifth time and set the record, ain't nobody going to remember that you just won a national title. On your tombstone will be you lost to Michigan 5 times. Now, you mentioned Penn State. They're the new belle of the ball. Michigan's got a national title. Ohio State has a national title. And now everybody came back to Penn State. It's set up now, the running backs, and Singleton and those guys. You got the Drew Aller. Only thing missing is the tight end. What was being said about Penn State, and what did James Franklin have to say?
So it was interesting kind of hearing James Franklin because for so long, especially when you get in the season, he's very coach speak. I just want to go 1-0 this week. And, it's all about the opponent in front of us. But he didn't hide from it at all. That they have very high expectations. He knows the national media is talking about them. They'll probably be a top 3, no worse than a top 5 team in the preseason when the AP poll comes out next month. They were the media pick in the Big Ten to win the Big Ten this year, slightly over Ohio State. They got the most starts back from returning players in the conference. They got the most returning all-conference players from a year ago. They went all in, basically. All those dudes kind of came back. And I feel a lot of it was the blueprint of Michigan in 23. They went to the playoff. They brought a lot of dudes back, unfinished business, wound up getting it done. Ohio State, bunch of dudes came back that could have left, unfinished business, got it done. Penn State, you win a couple games. You should have been playing for the national title. You blew the Notre Dame game. A lot of those dudes come back, and it's kind of like, are you going to be the next team to kind of continue this Big Ten run? Because the pattern has been set, and you kind of fit the profile of the last 2 champions. And so we'll see if James Franklin and Drew Aller can win some big games because that's been the bugaboo for them for a long time.
All right, so I guess let's get to the 2 local teams, Michigan, Michigan State. Both coaches spoke on Thursday. Ironically enough, and I don't know if you should look into this, but neither team brought a quarterback out there. I'm always leery when you bring a team out and it's not a quarterback because let's face it, the quarterback is the face of the program other than the coach. But neither team brought a quarterback out there. I understand, I think, why Michigan didn't, because I guess you didn't want to put Bryce Underwood under the spotlight. Still don't understand why Aiden Childs wasn't out there. And Jonathan Smith really, it's not to discredit the 3 guys that he brought, but it just leads to speculation when your quarterback's not. It's almost like when your quarterback's not named the captain. You're flashing back to the movie Draft Day. Like, did everybody go to his birthday party? Like, is he liked? That it just leads to that. So, Michigan State's there. Which one you want to talk about first?
Man, we could talk about Michigan. I think there's more juice around them. I think they're the wild card of this whole Big Ten season. Their schedule actually isn't that bad. Obviously you got Oklahoma week 2, but the runway kind of sets up well for them, even if they do lose that game, with it being a 12-team playoff. If, they have games against teams like Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC, even though a couple are on the road, those aren't teams that are expected to, compete for the Big Ten. They should be good teams and bowl teams, but not teams that should, they'll be underdogs against, or if they are, they'll be, very slight underdogs. They're definitely winnable games. And so, I don't think they get Penn State this year. Obviously, Ohio State at the end. If Michigan can find some semblance of a passing game, they could be right there. But I wonder if it's hey, we're going to let the defense lead us until the quarterback situation gets figured out, or they're going to kind of do it like they did when it was Cade and JJ in 21, where we start Mikey Keene and then kind of let Bryce get packages and then eventually hand it over to Bryce. I'm curious how they're going to do that.
Well, it's funny because I am wondering, what do they have to say about Bryce Underwood? Is he going to be named the quarterback coming in, or is this something that we got to wait to see? Did they speak upon that? Did Sharon Moore speak about any of that?
He mostly just it was very coach speak. Talked about Mikey King coming over and how he's very experienced. He's got the most experience of any quarterback on the roster, but they like Bryce. They were definitely very coy about it. I think whenever
it looks like everybody in their room is hurt but Bryce.
Right.
Like he's gonna get the job because everybody else is injured or this is hurting and you're out. And it's like, well, Coach, I'm the only one healthy. And I'm like, I don't think that that's a good idea. I have never been a proponent of throwing a true freshman out to the wolves. This ain't high school. Everybody is fast. Like in high school, you get away with being the most athletic person on the field. Everybody's that athletic. Everybody can run fast. Everybody can hit harder. And they're going to put defenses out there to confuse you. Because, I'm watching the Michigan Spring game, and I'm like, man, he didn't look good against them. And if it wasn't for that final play of the game, that was half of his passing stats off that little trick play. So I think he may get it by default. I'm not a big fan of anybody playing as a true freshman, let alone somebody playing at a program that big, because here's what happened. Harold, you start playing bad, and now you hear the boos, and your own fans turn against you, and they just eat your own, and now you destroy that person's confidence. You're like, and that's it's, to me, they're like kickers, where when everything's going good, it is, but once you get in their head, man, every pass becomes a struggle.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And, we'll see if Keene will be ready for the season. It seems like he will be. And if that is the case, I think that's the way I would go. I would go with the experienced guy to start it out and give Bryce some packages, kind of use his skill set, use his athleticism, maybe if his goal line situation, or maybe he gets like the third drive of the game, something like that. Because I'm not trying to throw him to the wolves in week 2 in Norman. That just doesn't seem like a great idea. But after
especially because Oklahoma's kind of upgraded their team. They were trending down, but they went into the portal. They made some moves, and now it looks like they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. So yeah, you're right. Not the place you want to go to Oklahoma and play. I mean, heck, every high school ran the Oklahoma drill. So you don't want to go to Oklahoma. No, you don't want to be that guy. That's not a good thing. Now, did any questions come up like with Sharon Moore? Because remember, he offered, I guess, Michigan offered for him to sit out a couple games 3 and 4. I've never heard of picking your own punishment, but hey, it's worth a try. Any questions like that, the pending charges and investigation, any of that come up?
Surprisingly, no. I was wondering if somebody was going to bring it up, if it was going to come up at any point, but it did not. And, I think it was one of those things where we'll see if someone says it. Okay, no one's going to say it. And so I think it just kind of, it might be lingering, but no one wanted to touch it. No one wanted to talk about it.
Not even the Ohio State writers. Wow. The civility that is now Big Ten Media Day. But you give them some casino chips and all you can eat buffets, and writers just lose their mind, I guess.
Now, I will say Ohio State, they spoke on Tuesday. So maybe the writers left on Wednesday, and maybe they weren't there for Sharon. It definitely seemed much more empty on day 3. Now that Ohio State and Penn State, both, and Oregon, all 3 were done by the second day. So I think a lot of national media kind of left with them as well. So that could have been part of it too.
All right. So what about Michigan State and Jonathan Smith? Because I think this has to be a big year for him. Didn't bring Aiden Childs out there. What did he have to say?
I think there's a quiet confidence there that they'll be better. Uh, I
Can't get
think
much
they're really
worse.
that's fair, fair. Yeah, I mean 5-7, obviously not what they wanted. They know they let the BC game get away last year, and I think week 2 for both Michigan schools will kind of say a lot about the program. And they'll both be at night. You know, with Michigan going to Oklahoma and then Michigan State hosting BC. I think it's imperative for them to get off to a 3-0 start before you go to SC. I think those 2 games in September will kind of define what that season looks like. Um, they really like their wide receiver room. They feel like they upgraded uh, in a major way there. You know, last year it was pretty much once we found out Nick Marsh was really good, everybody else
Right.
also did, and so then they wound up, giving him bracket coverage. Hey, we'll see if these other guys can win on the outside. They couldn't. Childs wound up doing too much, turning the ball over. So I think they like where Childs is, bringing the QB coach over from Oregon State that was with him when he was a freshman, John Boyer. That's supposed to help. He's all of 6'3", 225. Looks the part from what everybody's been saying, and adding the Kelly and McCray at receiver. They're curious about the running back room. That's going to be a young room, but it sounds like they're going to go 3 backs there along with the Sacramento State transfer. So I maybe you can speak to this, but I can't recall a year where they aren't being talked about either way. I mean, they're
No.
completely off the radar.
Harold, it from everybody I know, even on our show, it's really boiled down to because they've had radio silence. We're all like, okay, eight wins, and you got to beat Michigan, or else you're going to lose support of a lot of people. And now I want to actually go back because did anybody mention because I forgot 3 Michigan players. It was Rayshawn Benny, and I forgot the other 2 players. But at a golf outing, I don't know if you saw the video where they basically saying East Lansing, they come to East Lansing, they're gonna put belt to ass or belt to
Yeah.
behind, and then
Mm-hmm.
they start doing the whole thing like they whipping, and it's just like, yeah, that to me. I don't know if that was Little Brother 2.0, where Mike Hart said that and D'Antonio internalized it and turned it into 7 out of 8 victories, and it changed the mindset. I don't know if Jonathan Smith's personality is like that, but I think that kind of expedited things. It's like if you're a Spartan fan and you saw that and you're like, wow. So they just basically calling you out in the summer, what they're going to do. They're showing you how they're going to do it. Look, I had a couple people within the program like, yeah, we saw the video. A lot of players been sending us this clip. But what you going to do, I don't know. Did that come up any for either team?
In the rooms that I was in, no. But there's a lot of breakout rooms there with like CBS and NBC and Fox and ESPN. So they might have been asked in those rooms, about that. Because I'm sure, I wouldn't be shocked if a Big Noon or NBC, or CBS had that game because that will be, that's a prime real estate game. So I wouldn't be shocked if that came up to kind of talk about the rivalry, but it didn't in the grand scheme, big picture stuff that we asked them.
And then I saw, I'm going to give credit who I saw it. It was Sam Webb said, I guess he was talking to Sharon Moore, and Sharon said that, no more planting of the flags, no more of this. We just going to shake hands. We're going to go over to the band. We're going to leave the field at the same time. We're not doing no more of this histrionics where we just out there showboating. First of all, do you actually think that will happen with players? Like, will he be able to control that? And really, that kind of goes against everything that Michigan has been about in the last few years. Like, can you just change and swap up like that quickly on the fly?
Yeah, that's one of those I'd have to see it to believe it. I just feel like there's been too many instances over the years, over the last decade plus, where we've seen, them act out in certain ways. And even if it wasn't, Rayshawn Benny and those guys at the golf outing, it was at the end of the game last year when Colston Loveland said what he
Right.
said. And
The little
so
brother, yeah.
so like all that stuff's coming up still. I have a hard time believing they're not going to do that again if they win. So that's one of those I'd have to see it to believe it. I do believe Sharon and Jonathan Smith actually have like respect for each other. I don't think that there's like actual hatred between those two. And maybe because they're both new and mostly outsiders to it, but the players I think can have that in them. And I don't know if that's going to be controlled in just a year.
Well, I'll say this. The hammer never has a problem with the nail.
Yeah.
Hammer never has a problem with the nail. Nail can do, hammer's just like, yeah, that's fine. That's cute. So maybe that's why Sharon doesn't have any problem because he beat him. And heck, it's been a while. 2021 was a long time ago under Mel Tucker, the last time you saw a victory, especially since Michigan State, in my opinion, should have won that game last year. So,
yep.
We talked about Penn State and the other ones, any of the new schools, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, anything coming from them?
So I think I thought it was interesting. I thought it was good that Deshaun Foster completely leaned into the speech last year.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He brought up the LA thing, but like he played off of it. He got a laugh from the crowd about it. He seemed much more comfortable this year.
Man, honestly, I thought he was either stroking out or it was like a cry for help. I was like, is this brother okay? Like he hit the vapor lock and, we in LA and it's, you heard of USC. Wrong school, buddy. You coach UCLA.
Yeah, he definitely leaned into it. He made jokes about it. He completely understood that it didn't sound good. And, I think he made fun of himself, basically. He didn't take himself too seriously. He leaned into it. He put his own spin on it. I think UCLA, getting Nico from Tennessee, I'd be curious to see what they look like. I think Washington is another wild card in this league. If you had to ask me right now, if you could name the best quarterback, running back, receiver trio in the Big Ten, that's proven. I don't know if you could name a better one than Washington. But with Demai Williams, Jonah Coleman, and Denzel Boston. Because we don't know about Penn State's receivers. We don't know about Ohio State's quarterback. We don't know about Oregon's quarterback. So I think between those three guys, I think they have the best trio. But I don't know if they can block it all. He was an
exciting quarterback. Now, granted, it was like he was coming off the bench. So it's a little bit different when you're the guy. And you know that no matter what, you throw the interception, it's your problem. And you got to go fix that problem. It's easy when you just kind of coming in because, you can play the role of the fun uncle and just go out there, have fun, and then you can go home. Now you're the parent. This is your kid, and you have to make sure that this team. But you're right. He was explosive. He was fun to watch. And, I mean, not a lot of people watch a ton of Husky football, especially after Michael Penix left. But, yeah, to me, of the four teams, I mean, that's the one that I think a lot of people, I guess, says Oregon by default. But I don't know what Dante Moore is going to be. I mean, I just don't. I mean, we got to see, did a year of sitting help him out? USC, UCLA, I mean, Iamaliava, that whole saga, I don't know. I honestly, I have no idea, but you're right. Of the four teams on the West Coast, I do think that Washington would be the team to watch.
Yeah, agree. And the Oregon thing, I think Oregon is at a level now with Ohio State where they recruit so well from high school and the portal that they get the benefit of the doubt that Ohio State gets, where it's like, oh, they're loaded. They'll just reload. They'll be fine. And, I think to a certain extent that might be true, but I don't know about the Dante Moore situation. And Dan Lanning still wouldn't say he's our guy. He keeps saying, oh, Dante and other guys. Like he wouldn't necessarily just say Dante's our guy. I mean, we're pretty sure he will be, but he's still leaving that open-ended. And, they got the injury to Evan Stewart at receiver. You lose Tez Johnson, you lose Terrence Ferguson, you lose Trayshawn Holden. The receiver room is going to be pretty much all new with a new quarterback, with a new running back. Lost a lineman to the NFL. I mean, that's a lot to replace, but they back-to-back top 5 classes in high school and the portal.
They get the benefit of the doubt.
They're reloading.
All right. I want to end real quick. I guess Petiti has made it known that the Big Ten is looking at the 4-4-3-3 setup
4-4, yeah.
for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the Big Ten is guaranteed 4 spots in there. At first, hell, I was against it because I'm like, don't you just want to get the best teams? Why pigeonhole yourself? But now I understand because basically this is their way of counteracting the SEC in their scheduling. They only play 8 conference games, whereas, the Big Ten, they play 9 conference games. Plus you may play, like Michigan plays Oklahoma this year, where you're playing tough games. And, Indiana basically said, hey, we're going to go the SEC route. They bought out their Virginia game. And I'm just like, wow, you bought out Virginia. Like, you really want to make sure, because Virginia's not even close to a powerhouse in the ACC. You agree with this strategy, or do you think it should just be the best when they expand? Should it just be the best 14 teams?
I mean, as a commissioner, it makes sense to have, that I guess that point of view, like you're trying to protect your teams. And if I know I can get 4 in every year, that's a ton of money. That's a ton of playoff games. And there's going to be some years where it might not work. Like I know there were a couple media members in the Big Ten who thought that there would be 5 teams that make the playoff this year. But there might be some years where you only get 3. So I think overall it probably will average out to 4 or so. But say the SEC, say it expanded, you would have had maybe 6 SEC teams get in because, Ole Miss and Alabama were right there on the edge. So I do think we're protecting ourselves to make sure we get 4. But if we could also lock in the SEC to only 4, then, we could kind of keep it balanced. We know the Big Ten and the SEC pretty much control college football at this point. Make sure that, if those 2 leagues are on equal footing in terms of the number of teams, then everybody else just kind of gets in where they fit in. So they're working from a position of strength. As a commissioner, I understand it. I mean, personally, as a fan, I would rather just see the teams play it out. And if it happens to be a year where the ACC has 4 teams, so be it. If the ACC has 1, so be it. I just think that, every year is different.
I mean, because what was it, 4 for 8? So there were 2 wild card teams out there.
Mm-hmm.
If they go that route, so I guess that's where Notre Dame could get a bid in a group of 5. I still say if you're Notre Dame, you treading water. Nah, you should probably get into a conference. You should probably just tell the ACC, all right, we in. We'll join you. We want a guaranteed spot. Because if not, good luck.
Yeah, and I feel like if I'm Notre Dame right now, there's 0 reason for me to join the league because, okay, I don't care if I don't get a bye. I get to keep all of this money to myself. And the further we go,
but all that money now, for a while it was like, oh wow, but now you're like, well, Northwestern is getting more money than you, Notre Dame, per year with the networks and all of that. It's like where at first it was like, man, Notre Dame is rich. Well, yeah, now everybody's rich and they're okay. They're upper middle class. Whereas some of the other schools they're like the Jeffersons. They moved on up.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're in the Big Ten or SEC, you're loving life. When it comes to this thing, I mean, networks are fighting for you hand over fist. The NIL the way it is right now, you getting, especially in the Big Ten, you got Hollywood money now, you got tech money now. It's not just car dealerships anymore. Like so, the reach is so vast that you can tap into LA, you can tap into Seattle. You get tap into New York and DC. I mean, it's literally all over the country. So there's just more and more opportunities where, Notre Dame doesn't get that. But if they still feel like there's an advantage for them where they don't have to share any of their playoff share, where the Big Ten has to split it 18 ways, if Notre Dame just says, all of it's mine, then I think unless it gets to a point where you have to, win a conference to get in, there's just no reason for them to do it.
All right. Anything else you got for me? I appreciate your time. You out in Las Vegas. I'm going to let you go and hit the craps table.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it goes better in the last couple of days for me. It didn't turn out too great on the tables, but we're going to hope the last night works out better. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a very interesting Big Ten. I thought it was, kind of going back to your West Coast schools. We're in an era now where we're talking about Indiana possibly going back to the playoff more so than USC making the playoff. Like, this is where we are in 2025. With no one would have thought that when Lincoln Riley got there and Caleb Williams was winning the Heisman and they were a game away from making the playoff before they lost to Utah, that we were talking about USC being ranked behind Indiana and Illinois in the preseason poll. And people be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, this is where we are right now.
Well, I say if you play the table kind of like the Big Ten, you may be better off just playing the field, because instead of going with the favorite, play the field, cover your bases, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm gonna try
appreciate your time. Safe flight back home. For Hale Sheldon, I'm Rico Beard. Thanks for watching the 5 Star Zone.